Gold is being used as a weapon of financial mass destruction while the kids are chasing gains on Mickey Mouse meme coins. The adults in the room and the largest institutions in the world know how we can reset this financial system. And we see countries around the world. How are they getting leverage on the United States of America? Well, they're moving outside the dollar for trade. They're dropping our bonds and they're stacking record amounts of gold. And we're going to be talking about HSBC offering tokenized gold to their clients as well. The shift is underway. Many are going to get left behind. And I want to make sure that you guys can get yourselves, your family, and your business with your investments onto the right side of this transfer of wealth. If you guys need any precious metals, you guys know part of the community resources we have available at zachrector.com is precious metals affiliates for rolling over a 401k retirement account or getting metal shipped directly to you. So without further ado, you guys know where to find it. You guys know how to support it. I appreciate you for doing so. Let's get right on into this episode, folks. Starting off here, we see that Goldman Sachs sounding the alarm. This coincides with all of the insiders that we're seeing dumping their equity positions. Now we see that a little reallocation needs to be done, with Goldman Sachs seeing the potential for pensions to offload $32 billion worth of equities soon in order to rebalance their portfolios. And where are they going to be heading? Well, now another option has been made available, and we're looking at this one from CoinDesk. HSBC's gold token goes live for retail investors in Hong Kong. Now, if you recall, they've already launched this and made this available for institutional clients. Now we're going live for retail investors in Hong Kong. Now, this is what's interesting. They actually got approval here. I'm going to show you guys here in 1 second here. They got approval from the Hong Kong Securities and Commodities Exchange. I'm trying to find where it says this. As authorized by the Securities and Futures Commissions out of Hong Kong, right? And what this is, HSBC is claiming bragging rights for being the first bank to create a blockchain-based real-world asset aimed at retail investors. The tokenized gold product is available via HSBC online banking and HSBC HK mobile app. HSBC Gold Token is minted on the bank's Orion digital assets platform, and this is a private blockchain that they have. So they are tokenizing gold for everyday investors in Hong Kong and claiming bragging rights as the first bank to create a blockchain-based real-world asset aimed at the retail marketplace. The HSBC Gold Token, minted on the bank's Orion digital assets platform, is available via HSBC online banking and HSBC HK mobile app, the bank said in a press release on Wednesday. Banks and financial institutions are bringing a range of real-world assets onto blockchains, both private ledgers and public networks like Ethereum, in a process known as tokenization. Now, why, oh why, do they only mention Ethereum? Why? Well, I think you guys know the answer to that question, don't you? In November of last year, HSBC teased a tokenized gold offering planned as part of the bank's new digital asset custody platform, created in partnership with Swiss-based crypto safekeeping specialist Medico. Who is Medico now owned by? Oh, that's right, Ripple. Do they dare mention that in this article? God, no. No, no chance of mentioning the fact that Ripple now owns Medico, and the fact that HSBC actually affirmed that the partnership was going to continue with Medico even after Ripple has acquired them. Quote, "We are proud that HSBC Gold Token, powered by HSBC Orion, is the first retail product in Hong Kong that is based on distributed ledger technology as authorized by the Securities and Futures Commission," said HSBC Hong Kong head of wealth and personal banking Maggie NG in a statement. So see what happens when your government actually provides you regulatory clarity, actually signs off on products like this. Now we have retail in Hong Kong that can get access to tokenized gold offering through their mobile app, through this, platform here, through HSBC. This is what happens when the regulators don't get in the way. Now that we know that XRP in and of itself is not a security, and we're starting to get additional utilities on our ledger, I believe that we're going to start to see real-world assets coming to the XRP ledger, not just Ethereum like CoinDesk wants to mention in this article, right? Only mentions Ethereum, and only tokenization is taking place on Ethereum. Well, 99% of it's a token factory of fraud, but hey, congratulations, right? We know who that enriches. But when we look at real products, real offerings, and real, institutional level offerings that are now being brought to retail, why is that being done? It's being done in Hong Kong because they've given the regulatory approval, the clarity, and they've signed off on this. Meanwhile, in the United States, what are we up against? Well, you guys already know that deal, unfortunately. And so without a doubt here, folks, we are starting to see that gold is being used as a weapon of financial mass destruction. And the folks that see and know what's coming, they position themselves accordingly. More on that later. Let's continue on here, though. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, on an Ethereum spot ETF. Now, this is an interview with Charlie Gasparino. He says, there's a lot of noise about the SEC declaring Ether a security, which would take it out of the Bitcoin category as a commodity. How does that translate into an ETF? Fink says, I really can't talk about this, just like the XRP ETF. He can't talk about that either, can he? Right? So he can't talk about this, but I don't think that designation is going to be that deleterious. I've never heard of that word before. Fancy word there from Larry Fink. So even if it's a security, you could start an ETH ETF. Fink says, I think so. Yeah. He can't really talk about it, but he thinks he can. And the point here, folks, is that BlackRock and Larry Fink, they don't care whether it's a security. They don't really care in the fundamentals of Bitcoin. They're going to make their money regardless. If their clients want it, they'll get them exposure. And that's how they're going to maintain their position as the largest asset manager in the world, BlackRock, is because they offer their clients what they want. They're offering them Bitcoin. They're going to offer them Ether, whether Ether's a security or not. And I just have to chuckle because it's just hilarious to watch. It was, let's spit on the XRP community while the SEC is suing us. But now that the crosshairs have been turned on Ether, Solana, and proof of stake, now we need to get together and everybody stand up for Ethereum. Yeah, okay, thanks. No thanks. I'll pass on that. Okay, you guys are on your own in that regard. But when it comes to Larry Fink, BlackRock, and the Wall Street asset managers, they could care less. Whether it's a security, whether it's a commodity, they're going to make their money regardless. And you can make an ETF out of a trading strategy, out of a commodity, out of currencies, out of securities. And so it doesn't matter to BlackRock what the designation is going to be. They're going to make their money. And that's exactly what Fidelity's trying to do right here as well. $4.5 trillion asset manager Fidelity filing an S1 form for a spot Ethereum ETF with staking included. Okay. Now, I keep on asking the question, when are we going to get an XRP ETF? Because, they're trying to debate, is Ether a security or not? Is it going to get approved or not? We've even seen now in the last couple of days, people suggesting, Eleanor Terrett suggesting, that we might even see appetite for a Litecoin ETF and the potential for it to get approved before Ethereum, because Litecoin's basically a derivative of Bitcoin, which Bitcoin's already been deemed a commodity. And so they suggest that, Litecoin could have a better chance of being approved for a spot ETF. Well, what about XRP? We know that there's appetite for that. We know there's demand for that. You can't tell me there's not demand for that. The SEC proved it in their own words, submitting and announcing that Ripple had to disclose that, yeah, they did sell XRP to 80 institutional partners after the lawsuit has been filed. And we know how much demand there is because the SEC citing how much dang money Ripple's been making by selling XRP as the reasoning for why they need to be disgorged of $800 million plus $200 million interest, plus another $800 million civil penalty is a suggestion from the SEC. We need to make an example out of them. They made so much dang money, and there's a potential for them to make more. And so we need to disgorge them and hit them with a penalty to deter them and punish them, setting an example. So you can't tell me that there's not demand. We know there is. And we know that we have clarity that it's not a security. I believe that you have the best case to be made for XRP being made into an ETF than you do Ethereum, than you do a Litecoin. We know it's not a security. We know it's decentralized, right? So when XRP ETF, it's only a matter of time. And I think that it's going to be a battle over who can keep the assets under management. I already know it is. We're already seeing it with the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Who can provide the lowest fees? Some of these groups have been waiving fees for 6 months, waiving them for the first year because they're trying to keep those assets under management. Now, in regards to this lawsuit, I wanted to share this one here. This is Meta lawman James Murphy on with Scott Melker. And he's commenting on the fact that the second court ruling, and we talked about this in the updates that I dropped yesterday on the case, but I wanted to reiterate it and share that this is, the claims that I was making yesterday are now being backed up by a lawyer who actually knows this stuff. Says, quote, Ripple caught a very lucky break recently. A Second Circuit Court of Appeals ruled at the end of last year that in order for there to be disgorgement, there have to be victims of the fraud, victims of the securities violation. There has to be something called pecuniary harm that means losses, actual losses. So when you read the SEC's filing on their damages theory, they have a heading saying, hey, no problem, there is pecuniary harm here, but they don't actually identify a single purchaser of XRP who lost money. Remember what I reported on yesterday. Basically, their argument is that some institutional investors didn't get as good of a deal as others did. Guys, we're talking about, oh, woe to the institutional investors that didn't get as good of a deal as some other institutional investors did. Did anybody lose money? No. Did some of these institutional investors maybe not make as much money as they possibly could have? Yeah, and that's what the SEC's concern is. That's right. The agency that's tasked with protecting retail investors is now making their argument for why Ripple needs to be disgorged, because institutional investors, they weren't harmed. There weren't damages done. They just didn't make as much money as they could have. Let me know how much sympathy you have for the institutional investors that didn't get as good of a deal as they could have in the comments down below. Okay. Now, let's continue here, folks. Final point here as I title this video, gold being used as a weapon of financial mass destruction that is being fired right now by China and others. This one from Tim Hack on Twitter. After the U.S. is tumbling in Ukraine, China is taking its chance to crush the U.S. financially on top through gold. And I would argue that, look at all the other central banks that are stockpiling record amount of golds, more gold than's been stacked in the last 50 plus years. So it's not just China. Let's be clear about that. And that's why this move is so powerful, is it's not just China. It's many other countries as well, including our allies, right? I talked about this in the video yesterday about how Japan, the Japanese yen, is now trading at a level that we haven't seen in 34 years, okay? And how they're having to sell off bonds because their currency continuing to decline. And looks like Japan needs some gold, and maybe they need some XRP too, just like Yoshitaka Kitao, CEO of SBI, said every bank in Japan is going to be using XRP. Yeah, they're going to need XRP. All after the US tried the same with China, but they only succeeded on paper. China's stock market is crushed, but not their economy. They know they can't win this East versus West war on ground like Russia and Ukraine without risking a nuclear exchange, but they can financially because they are stronger in real economic numbers already. That's debatable. That's definitely debatable. Okay, it's very tough to tell how strong their economy is because we don't get good data. Some might call them misleading in not only how much gold they're reporting that they're buying, they're finally reporting that they've been stockpiling a bunch of gold for the past 16 months. Their central bank has been buying gold. But some of us suggest that maybe even the numbers that they're giving us are misleading and only telling half the story, right? But nonetheless, we'll see how strong their economy is. But they are starting to use gold here. They will force a debt crisis in the US through channeling as much gold away from them as possible. That's the Achilles heel, and once they decide to cut it open, you better own gold. Now remember, we've already seen gold go to a new all-time high, and we're talking in paper derivatives value that's being traded on the paper, the funny money market, known as the COMEX. So we're talking about the COMEX gold price that has gone up over 2,200 gold. A lot of people want to hate on gold, want to say that gold's just a pet rock. Well, that pet rock has gone to a new all-time high, and it's doing what gold is meant to do, which is acting as a store of value, okay? And remember, it's already gone to this level before we've really even accelerated into hyperinflation, before we've even had to cut rates once again. What do you think is going to happen once the Fed has to cut rates once again, right? This is only going to put more fuel on the fire for gold. What do you think happens when they have to turn that money printer back on, right? So gold's already gone to a new all-time high before all of this. And silver still remains heavily suppressed as well, lot of catch up to be done on silver, which is kind of my plan, right? I'm stockpiling silver right now and then potentially going to be rotating that into gold down the road. I can't decide whether I'm going to roll my silver into gold or if I'll just take cash and go buy gold finally, right? I don't own any gold right now. I just own silver myself in full disclosure, right? But what we're seeing right here, the Achilles heel of the United States is the gold being removed from the vaults in the West and actually going out east. And these countries out in the East too, no longer exporting their gold either. They're keeping it all for themselves, right? And when it is time to set this thing free, we're going to see much higher prices on gold. And the problem is that a lot of folks are trading this thing using the stock market, using derivatives of gold, right? Trading futures, trading the COMEX price. And we're about to come to reality. We're about to come to the fair market value of gold. And as I had Lynette Zhang on my show last month, what did she say the fair market value of gold was? 40,000 US funny money dollars. 40,000. So as I said when I was interviewing her, hey, that's great. Whether we're talking about the fair market value of gold being 4,000 US dollars or 40,000, I'm excited to find out, right? It's just like I say with XRP. Is XRP going to go to $5 or 589? I'm excited to find out, and I've packed my bags accordingly. And as we've been saying, gold being used as a weapon of financial mass destruction, but you also have XRP that is being used as a strategic weapon. It's being used by Ripple as a strategic weapon. And I believe that it's being used by other institutions as a strategic weapon. And if you think that I'm crazy, go look at what the SEC cited in their own case that they made on the remedies brief that they filed just yesterday, right? If you think that I'm making this stuff up, go look how they disclosed. Ripple had to disclose another 80 institutions showed up to buy XRP from Ripple after the lawsuit was filed. Another $200 million was collected in Ripple selling XRP after the lawsuit was filed from pre-allocation contracts, deals that were already signed off before the lawsuit, and Ripple ended up executing after the lawsuit. That's what's called a pre-allocation contract, and it's now been confirmed by the SEC. So not only do we have 1,700 contracts that have been cited in the lawsuit, we have $200 million that was collected after the lawsuit from 4 institutions that bought XRP from Ripple in pre-allocation contracts. So check that box on pre-allocation contracts, not just being some crazy conspiracy theory. But then we move on over to an additional 80 institutions that showed up to buy XRP from Ripple after the lawsuit as well. This coincides with, what do we have from in regards to gold? The central banks are buying more gold than they have in the last 50 years. And the central banks, by and large, by a large margin, are working with Ripple more so than any other cryptocurrency company in the space by far. Most of these cryptocurrency companies can't even get these central banks to pick up the phone, let alone getting deals signed like you're seeing with Ripple. And so we're going to continue to update you guys in this regard. We got precious metals, a massive opportunity here. Like I said, I know my screen's blacked out here, but you guys know the deal. Everything's at my website, zachrector.com. Just let us know. Do you want the metal shipped directly to you? You want to be able to hold it? You want to be able to stack that pet rock like I do? Or do you want to roll over a 401k retirement account? We can facilitate both that. Talk to the professionals, my affiliates at my website, along with all the rest of our community resources. And if you're looking to join our private group, that's done through Patreon to get access to Discord as well. It's all over there, zachrector.com. You guys know what to do. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. If you guys can do me a big favor by liking this video and sharing it out far and wide, I really do appreciate it. Let's get yourself, your family, your business, and maybe your friends and loved ones onto the right side of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.